Fani Willis said no, Mark Meadows. I know it bothers you. She's a black woman and she's holding your freedom in her hands. But she said no. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I am Tabitha and this right here is Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows served as the White House Chief of Staff underneath the Trump presidency. Mark Meadows has been cooperating in Jack Smith's federal case regarding the January 6th insurrection against Donald Trump. And so he's trying to get his case moved here in Georgia to federal court so that he can get some type of deal through Jack Smith. Yeah. Mark Meadows was indicted along with all of the other criminals, along with Donald Trump. He was indicted for a violation of RICO and violation of his oath of office. And so he, along with all of the other criminals, have until Friday, this coming Friday, the 25th, to turn themselves in. Mark Meadows, because he's trying to get this case moved to federal court, reached out to Fani Willis's office to have an extension granted to turn himself in. Fani Willis said no. Mark Meadows and his attorneys submitted a 19-page emergency motion to try to get this Georgia case moved to federal court. And in that motion is where we learn that Mark Meadows had reached out to Fani's office to seek an extension. And here's what Fani's response to that request was. I am not granting any extensions. I gave 2 weeks for people to surrender themselves to the court. Your client, Mark Meadows, is no different than any other criminal defendant in this jurisdiction. The 2 weeks was a tremendous courtesy. At 12:30 p.m. on Friday, I shall file warrants in the system. My team has availability to meet to discuss reasonable consent bonds Wednesday and Thursday. Now, after that appears in the motion, this is what's said. Counsel responded by letter earlier today, making clear that Mr. Meadows is differently situated from other Fulton County defendants because he is a former federal official who has a pending notice of removal, which is scheduled for consideration before this court on Monday, August 28th. Counsel urged District Attorney Willis to reconsider and made clear that in the meantime, Mr. Meadows would seek appropriate relief. And here's that response. And here's that response by Mark Meadows, his attorneys, to Fani T. Willis. It reads, I write in response to your email this morning rejecting our request in my letter yesterday for a modest extension of the voluntary surrender deadline so that our client, Mark R. Meadows, will not be arrested before Judge Steve C. Jones as an opportunity to conduct an evidentiary hearing and decide whether to permit his removal as provided under 28 USC 1455B5. While I can understand the sentiment behind your assertion that Mr. Meadows is no different than any other criminal defendant in Fulton County, we both know that is simply not true when it comes to our request. He is a former federal official charged with state law crimes for conduct that occurred while he was serving as Chief of Staff to the President of the United States. I don't care if he was serving as the president's mail boy. I don't care. If the president, his deadline is the 25th, Mark Meadows is no different. And I'm sure that's what Fani T. Willis is saying. But moving on. Under the laws and Constitution of the United States, he has a right to remove his case to federal court under 28 U.S.C. 1442A1. He does. But that case hasn't been moved yet. And ultimately to have the charge against him dismissed under the Supremacy Clause. You and your office surely considered these issues before filing these charges. She did. She did. And yet she still moved forward, and she's requiring your client to turn himself in by the 25th at 12:30 p.m. We expect you will not agree with Mr. Meadows on the merits of removal or immunity, but we would expect you to agree that he has a right to have his arguments considered just like any other defendant. In this instance, the rights Mr. Meadows asserts includes the right not to be arrested and brought to trial in a state court. They cite Tennessee versus David, 100 U.S. 257-263-1880, emphasis added. By arresting Mr. Meadows or coercing him into a voluntary surrender before the hearing on Monday, you would be irreparably impairing his rights under federal law and frustrating the federal district court's orderly consideration of removal. We strongly urge you to reconsider. In the meantime, we will pursue appropriate recourse to protect Mr. Meadows and his rights under federal law. And it's signed by his attorneys. However, she's not obstructing any other court proceedings that he has going on. I believe Mark Meadows has a bond. How much the bond is, I don't know. I didn't go look. Y'all let me know down in the comments. But he has a bond. So he's going to arrive at the courthouse just like John Eastman and Scott Hall. He's going to pay his 10%. He's going to take his mug shot. They're going to do other paperwork, and he's going to leave. What's happening here in Georgia will not affect his hearing on Monday. So Fani T. Willis said you could go play with somebody else. If he's not here on Friday by 12:30 p.m., she will be issuing arrest warrants. Fani Willis said no, Mark Meadows. And we will see if that's that on that, because we will be waiting for you to show up, and we will be waiting for your mugshot to be released. Y'all let me know your thoughts down below on this situation. Fani is not playing with these insurrectionists, with these white supremacists, with these criminal defendants. She is not playing.